For our assignment, we are investigating the Arboretum and the human involvement to see how sustainable it currently is, and then we will generate more effective solutions.
After hearing about the work of some volunteers there. When we heard what these volunteers had to say, it really changed our thinking.
We went in with the view that we could come up with more sustainable practices to keep the Arboretum going. We really changed our thinking though, because we realised that the Arboretum has already been designed to be very sustainable. The Canberra National Arboretum is located near the centre of Canberra. It is in between the Canberra Zoo and Telstra Tower, two of Canberra's icons. The Arboretum was designed and created after the 2003 bushfires. Before the fires, the area was mostly forest. After the forest was burnt down, the government put forward the idea to create the Arboretum. According to the National Arboretum of Canberra, the building of the Arboretum represented the Canberra community's process of healing and recovery after the bushfires.
The area where the National Arboretum now stands used to be a pine plantation. However, in 2003, the bushfires ravaged through the area and burnt most of the pines. After the bushfires, the ACT government decided to replant the area as an arboretum, and a competition was set up in 2004 to find the best design. The winning design was 100 forests, 100 gardens. This design concentrated on displaying forests of rare, threatened or iconic species from all around the world. Some of the important parts that would be a part of it were research, education and experimental plantings. According to Architecture AU, one of the aims of the project was to protect the tenuous survival of plant species in a climatically challenged world.
Well, STEP is a community group which has a vision to create a regional botanic gardens for the Southern Tablelands. That means to grow the trees, plants which can be found within about 100 kilometres of Canberra. And we're very lucky that we've been given one of the forests at the Arboretum, one of the 100 forests, to create this vision. The 100 forests are entirely managed by the Arboretum. Each forest has a special species from around the world, either a rare and endangered species or some other special species, and their staff look after those. But there is an organisation called the Friends of the Arboretum, which is general community members who provide guiding services for visitors. Whereas we're the only community group which specialises in one forest.
I'm Richard Jones. I'm a semi-retired IT person. I work at the ANU and I do some work for some companies around. But I work here as a volunteer in STEP most Thursday mornings. The first thing I think you need to realise is I'm not an expert. They've long since given up trying to get me to learn Latin names for plants and so on. So I push wheelbarrows of mulch. I pull weeds out when it's safe to know that they're not actually the plants we're meant to be planting. I keep people entertained. I enjoy the morning teas. I come here for a number of reasons. I think it's a really lovely place to come and do some gentle manual labour in a sort of a working bee environment with good people. I've learnt a lot about the plants, and I believe very strongly that this forest contributes to the Arboretum in a different way perhaps to all the other forests, because of the diversity, because of the local plants, and obviously because we've got the understory as well as the trees. And we've built the education centre here, an outdoor education centre. So part of the vision, which I totally subscribe to, is to hope to get people who will, people come from school parties and so on, to have ecology lessons and things actually here. In fact, the ACT schools have written 2 curricula for year 7 and 8, I think, which actually involves coming here. So I subscribe very much to that, but I also do it because it's a huge amount of fun, and they're really nice people. They forgive me my trespasses.
My name's Judy, and I'm one of the volunteers who works here at STEP. We meet every Thursday, and some of us come really early, like about 8 o'clock or even a bit before, and we have morning tea at 10, and then we work through to usually about midday. So every Thursday we're putting in quite a few hours here doing work on the various blocks that are set out. David sends around a plan for us at the start of each Thursday, so we know what we're going to be doing. We might be concentrating on planting, or we might have to do quite a bit of weeding. We might have to do mulch work, which entails taking loads and loads of newspapers, getting them really wet, laying them down on the ground and covering them up with mulch to stop the weeds. So every week it's something different, and it's a really great thing to do. It's great companionship, and the results are amazing. To come back every week and just see the growth of the plants and different things in flower, it's a very rewarding exercise. I think every week we have to sign a book. I think there's usually between 12 to 14 people who turn up regularly, but there are others as well who are members of STEP who perhaps don't come quite as often. But that's the core group, and yeah, it's a very successful way to operate.
And do you enjoy your work as a volunteer?
I love it. I love it. Thursdays are the best day of the week.
That's good. Before the 2003 bushfires, the area of the National Arboretum Canberra was filled with pine plantations.
One of the things we're now developing is to invite some of the local residents who are establishing their own gardens to come here and see what grows, so that they can take those ideas, those species names back, purchase them from the local nurseries and then grow them in their gardens. And this helps sustainability, because knowing that plants will grow in this region is really very important. It avoids wasting your money on plants which really won't grow here, and helps sustainability in the suburbs. One of the new exciting elements of what we're doing is to engage with local Indigenous people, the Ngunnawal people, to see whether we can establish a bush tucker garden to demonstrate the food and fibre plants which Indigenous people used and still use. And they've engaged with us, and they're very enthusiastic about coming here, helping us choose the species to plant, and perhaps in the future to look after them. So we're looking forward to that aspect of community engagement.
I started coming here in 2011 and found out that there were lots of trees planted and they were quite variable. And I also found out that they wanted things to be measured from the Arboretum's point of view, in that they wanted to find out growth rates and things like that. So I've got a forestry background from Sweden, and a little bit of research things here. I work with CSIRO, forestry, etc. And decided, okay, I can do the measuring. And so I started off just measuring. It was supposed to be just part of the trees, a sample of each one. But I found out that the variety is within species is so much that we need to measure. I felt that I had to measure every tree, and so I've been measuring every tree for height and diameter once they got up to measurable size for the last 5 years nearly, once a year. Initially we were told they wanted samples measured once every 6 months, but found out that no, there was nobody that cared about it, and I'm starting to get a little bit of response now that they can see how much the trees have grown. And some of the tallest ones here now are just over 10 metres in height.
Wow.
And some of them have been adding 2 metres a year nearly, and other ones have just been growing a few centimetres, unfortunately. And part of that is because of the way they've been planted, and so that some of them just haven't taken off, and they've been planted out a little bit too sparsely for a forest situation. And so, but here, because it's an arboretum, there will be a variety, and that is part of what we want to show.
Yeah.
That there are differences, between species and differences within species.
Well, sustainability for this forest is quite an interesting issue because it's either very dry, in which case we have to ensure that we water the new plants and keep them going, or it's really quite wet and we have almost like floods going through because it drains from other parts of the Arboretum. So this illustrates two aspects of sustainability, either too wet or too dry. STEP is a community group and it's entirely dependent on funding from its members. So we charge $20 a year for our 70 or 80 members. But we're also very lucky that we can apply for government grants for special projects. So this helps us do the gravel paths and also our clearing, which is our little education space. We've also got a special grant from a foundation which specialises in eucalypts, so we've produced a leaflet about the eucalypts here from that sort of funding. So it's a mixture of external grants and our own funds. We'd like to see whether we could charge people to come here, but the Arboretum as a whole is free to come to. So we're really reliant on people saying, oh, this is a good place, let's make a donation to the Friends of the Arboretum for use at STEP.
Before we went to the Arboretum for our interview, I did not realise how sustainable the Arboretum currently is. For the Arboretum to continue to sustain itself in the future, we have to have the following things: money/funding, government support, volunteers, methods to keep the trees alive and healthy, and public support. It currently has many practices that keeps all of these things running. The government already provides a large amount of funding for the Arboretum. There are many wonderful volunteers who work at the Arboretum helping it to look beautiful. Many ways have been developed to help the trees stay alive. Water has been a problem and the Arboretum is currently looking at ways to solve it. Kangaroos, hares and wild pigs have also been a hassle, eating young saplings. The Arboretum caters entertainment for all ages, bringing many of the public in. However, there are a few solutions that the Arboretum could expand on. One issue was that sometimes they have little water and other times they have too much. Water tanks could be inconspicuously placed to catch extra water. These tanks could be emptied in times of little water. Another idea is making it a place for kids to have birthday parties. Building theme walks through the forest to keep the children entertained and add green hand days. On the whole, the Arboretum was very well thought out and designed. It currently already is very sustainable and will have a bright future.